Good morning from my favourite street in the whole of the city. This is the Villas in Stoke, and I love this place so much. Now, I'm not saying this will always be my favourite street. I still have another just under 3,000 to go through, but this place has always fascinated me. Its houses are just crazy. I don't want to upset people or invade privacy, but I love the homes here. It's just like nothing else. It's like being in a different place totally. I don't think there's anywhere else in the city that's like this. The housing stock, the unadopted dodgy roadway, it's just amazing. So quiet too, considering that just over there is Hunters Road in Penkle, and in front of me is London Road. It's so quiet, and the homes here are just, I don't know, it's bonkers. But I tell you what really does fascinate me about this place, that's the vampire of the Villas, where I think it was the 27th of November in 1972, a young PC from Staffordshire Police turned up at number 2 the Villas because of a body had been found, and he entered the room of this Polish immigrant worker, and only to discover a scene from what could only be described as a horror movie, where there was trails of salt and garlic around the bed, little pouches of salt and garlic neatly made up on the bed, and around his body where he had died in his sleep. Outside on the flat roof there was a bowl full of excrement and little jugs with urine, all mixed with salt. Must have been such a distressing scene, and he did some research and discovered that salt and garlic were a remedy that Eastern Europeans used to ward off vampires, and the cause of death by the coroner was asphyxiation. He had choked, this poor Polish man had choked on a piece of garlic that he'd decided to put in his mouth before he slept. Obviously a crazy idea. Don't do that, kids. You will choke on it in your sleep. But yeah, can you imagine what he must have been going through at that time, and how fearful he was of supernatural conspiracies or vampires, or maybe it was all real. Maybe there's something else going on in this quiet little backwater in Stoke. Maybe this is a real X-file. Maybe it's something to do with Bram Stoker. See what I did there? I'm here all day. Literally am. Well, for a few hours. But yeah, I'm fascinated by that story. It's very sad, and I do actually have a letter with me from the person who's alive today that would have known this man, and it reads, "I'm probably the only living person who knew Mikura." Sorry, I'm not good at my pronunciations of Polish words. Do apologise. I lived at the house with my mother until 1971. Oh, a car coming. Hope it's not got vampires in the car. I lived at my house with my mother until 1971, when I moved to London. He lived as a lodger at my mum's house, rent-free, on the condition that he kept the upstairs clean, as my mum had several lodgers. And most of them Polish ex-miners who had come here after the war and worked in the pits. The poor man had a bad time of it during the war, which had left him not all there, according to this man. He was a quiet man and a loner, And as he got older, he began to develop some mental health problems. Now this is interesting because when they entered the room, all the bulbs in the room had been dismantled, and there was no electricity in there, no light of any sort, apart from maybe if he had candles. But anyway, he goes on to say that he developed mental health problems, and one example of this was an electrical short in the house meant that water taps gave off a slight shock. He decided that this was a government were doing this to stop people using so much water, and so he decided not to trust electricity anymore. And he goes on at the end of the letter to say that my mum always regretted not helping him more before it was too late. The only upside to the whole affair was that the room had to be gutted and the contents destroyed because he had got it into such a state. And as my mum was dismantling the wardrobe, she found nearly £1,000 taped to the back of it. This paid for the redecoration of the top 3 rooms, and that's by a man named Ken Rodowitz. So yeah, at least they got that. But yeah, what a story, eh? And look at this place. Can you see there's like a little roundabout in the middle of the road. It's just unbelievable. I mean, the housing stock. Honestly, I love this street so much. It's incredible. You know, it's got its own X-File. It's got its own amazing houses with land. It's got an insane roadway that you need a tractor to drive up and down. It's got a mad roundabout in the middle of it. It's incredible, it's quiet. It's near the Britannia Stadium, sorry, the Bet365. I'll always know it as the Brit. Or maybe people older than me will remember the Victoria Ground, which was even closer by. Yeah, it's just, oh man. I wish I'd have played the lottery last night. Although it doesn't look like any of these are for sale. I can understand, I mean, why would anyone not want to live here unless there are vampires around?